Hard on him, Batman.
Don't worry, he'll be back soon enough. Come on, we better see what the commissioner wants.
Batman is inarguably one of the most well-loved superhero icons in the history of pop culture, and DC has never shied away from introducing him in new form. From Matt Reeves' take on the Batman to the Dark Knight trilogy, the DC universe is full of live-action films, but this vigilante has also inspired many animated series, including The New Adventures of Batman. So today, we'll dive into the show, its plotlines, and the characters that made it special. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means an awful lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Embarking on an animated adventure, The New Adventures of Batman series. Produced by Filmation and DC Comics in collaboration with Warner Brothers Television, The New Adventures of Batman aired on CBS in 1977. The show was inspired by Bob Kane and Bill Finger's Batman comics, and it featured Batman in all his glory, as he fought against some of the most iconic villains in his rogue gallery. The show was directed by Don Towsley, and it ran for about one season with a total of 16 episodes. It premiered in February 1977 and aired alongside other series such as Tarzan and the Batman and Tarzan Adventure Hour. The show focused on Batman's adventures while he dealt with a fan from another dimension, tried to track down Alfred and put an end to his rival's schemes. It was actually created after Filmation Associates produced the Batman and Superman Hour in September 1968, followed by the Batman with Robin the Boy Wonder series in 1969. The New Adventures of Batman was also produced alongside Hanna-Barbera Productions' Super Friends series, which involved Batman and Robin. This was one of those rare instances where competing studios concurrently produced a series with these characters, but it must be noted that the voice actors for Batman and Robin were different in both these productions. Main characters of the New Adventures of Batman series. To begin with, Adam West voiced Batman, who fought crime in Gotham City alongside with his faithful sidekick Robin. Robin was voiced by Burt Ward, and his series popularized the circled R on Robin's costume. Batman and Robin made quite an iconic team, and they also gained a reputation as the dynamic duo while fighting against a range of villains. In fact, every episode introduced us to a whole new menace, ranging from Professor Bubble, Electro, and the Penguin, to other more underrated villains such as the Chameleon and Clayface. Clayface's character was known for applying a special potion every day to maintain his appearance and powers, and he also had the ability to take on new animal form. At one point, he was bested by Batmite, and he then worked in cahoots with Catwoman to defeat Batman. Of course, iconic characters such as the Joker and the Penguin stirred up trouble throughout the season, and pretty much every single villain was voiced by Lenny Weinrib. While the Joker reappears every few episodes, the Penguin only appeared in around 4 episodes, and he was best identified by his posh accent and a peculiar way of rolling his R's. In addition to voicing almost half of Batman's rogue gallery, Lenny Weinrib also voiced Commissioner Gordon and Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze worked with Professor Frost to pull off the crime of the century, and they stole a superfast submarine known as the N-1000 in his only appearance in the show. Another character who appears in this series is Batmite, an imp from an alternate dimension who means well and tries to make himself useful. Batmite was voiced by Lou Scheimer, and his character often unintentionally created trouble for Batman. Scheimer, who also voiced characters such as the Batcomputer and Clayface, as well as one of Lucky's henchmen in one episode. Characters such as the Riddler and the Scarecrow did not appear in the show after Hanna-Barbera secured the rights to these characters, but the Riddler did appear in the opening credits. Batgirl made an appearance as one of Batman's allies, and she was voiced by Melanie Britt. Britt also voiced the villainous Catwoman, but her character did not have any origins or an established backstory, and her most striking feature was her yellow and orange costume. While these were some of the main characters that breathed life into the show, let us now explore some of the episodes in detail. A deep dive into the New Adventures of Batman series. To kick things off with a bang, the first episode of the show, titled The Pest, introduced the Joker in all his glory, as he steals an experimental car and lands in trouble. The show wastes no time before jumping into things, and Batman sets the premise along with Robin, Batgirl, and Batmite in the introduction itself. Soon enough, the scene shifts to the Joker as he reads a newspaper ad about a hydrogen-powered car, while the bat signal goes off and alerts Batman. While he rushes to their base with Robin, they realize that Batmite has made a mess, and Batman makes some time to reprimand him before heading off to meet Commissioner Gordon. Gordon then plays them a tape of the Joker threatening to pull off something crazy, while the crazed villain tells them that they must remember that oil and water don't, as they get to the bottom of things. While Batman and Robin stumble upon some news of a scientist revealing his brand new car at the convention center, they put two and two together and figure out that the Joker has his eyes set on this invention. They almost track him down, but Batmite appears at the scene and gives their cover away, giving the Joker time enough to escape. Meanwhile, the scientist behind the invention warns them that the car could be a nuclear risk, while the Joker sends them another video of him racing off in the car. He further reveals that he intends to sell the car to the highest bidder, but Batman refuses to let him get away with it. They end up in a wild goose chase all around Gotham City, while the scientist reveals the car's weak just in time for them to defeat the Joker and restore the car to its normal state before it explodes and destroys the entire city. After de-escalating the situation, Batman and Robin celebrate with a special dinner with Batmite, excitedly tags along. In this way, the episodes typically revolved around the dynamic duo's attempt to thwart a villain's plan, with some help and a whole lot of trouble from Batmite. The second episode, The Moon Man, starts with a robbery at the museum, but the robber turns out to be none other than Batman's old college friend, Scott Rogers. Rogers used to be an astronaut who ended up in a freak accident, but Batman had no idea, and he even hosts him for a dinner. As soon as Rogers takes his leave, Commissioner Gordon summons Batman and Robin to tell him about the robber, and tells them that the robber only stole a singular moon rock. While Batman and Robin try to get to the end of this case, Rogers finds himself a bit lightheaded at an event while giving a lecture on space. He soon spots the full moon, which turns him into the superpowered Moon Man. Moreover, he even uses his space race to burn off some parts of an adventure ride at a carnival before running around the entire place and sabotaging a bunch of rides. While Batman and Robin chase him off, Moon Man evades them and returns to his regular avatar as Scott Rogers. Back at the Batcave, Batman runs some tests on the Moon Man's voice, and he instantly recognizes his friend's voice in a jiffy. Meanwhile, Moon Man embarks on a dangerous mission to steal the moon for himself, and Batman rushes to him to talk him out of it, but without any success. In the meantime, the moon moves closer to Earth, and Batman teams up with Robin and Batgirl to block Moon Man's access to moonlight and cut off his power source. When this does not work, they talk him out of summoning the moon all for himself and even point out the dangers that this would pose to humanity, which eventually helps Rogers return to his senses, as he uses the last of his energy to send the moon where he belongs. The process drains him of all his powers, and peace is restored once again, as Rogers lets go of his ambitious plans to steal the moon. As the series progresses, Batman deals with all kinds of nuances, and the third episode, Trouble Identity, actually lands him in some serious trouble. While Catwoman has been a notorious presence across DC lore, she takes things one step further in this series by stealing a machine that turns trash into fine fabrics. The episode kicks off with Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, and Barbara Gordon on their way to meet a respected scientist who demonstrates his brand new machine that turns trash into delicate fabrics such as silk and fur. However, they seem unaware of the fact that Catwoman has sneaked her way into the premises and that she has her eyes set on this machine that would bring her a whole lot of luxury fabrics and wealth. While they admire this creation, this power goes off and Catwoman uses this opportunity to steal the converter. Moreover, she manages to frame Batgirl for theft by quickly changing into her costume and declaring that the converter will make her rich before she flees the scene. In the meantime, Barbara, aka our original Batgirl, watches helplessly alongside Bruce and Dick, and Commissioner Gordon summons them to his office to discuss the crime. Since he does not know their true identities, he rings up Batmite and tells them to get Batgirl under control, and Batman has no option but to wait until he can get back to the Batcave to solve the crime. As the episode progresses, Batgirl manages to locate Catwoman's secret cave, but the police unfortunately show up at the same time and label her as a culprit. While Batman shows up at the scene and rescues her, Catwoman arranges for a large-scale fashion sale, and they rush to the convention center to catch her before she profits off her crime. In this way, Batman manages to avert a crisis and clear Batgirl's name, and they end the episode on a happy note. The next episode, titled A Sweet Joke at Gotham City, introduces us to a new villain, Sweet Tooth, as he tries to turn the city's water supply into streams of chocolate syrup. While this might sound like a fun plan for an amusement park or a ride-themed event, Batman and Robin put an end to his plans before the overflowing chocolate syrup supplies cause a major water crisis in the city and brings it to a halt. As the series progressed, Batman continued to work with Robin, Batgirl, and Batmite to defeat entities such as Professor Bubbles, Electro, the Chameleon, and the Penguin. They also land in trouble with a Joker as he runs away from Arkham and leaves a bunch of clues for them to guess his crimes, but they manage to get one step ahead of him and arrest not only the Joker, but the Riddler and many other criminals. Soon after, Mr. Freeze teams up with Professor Frost to steal a super-fast submarine known as the N-1000, and Batman barely has any time to breathe after stopping Mr. Freeze before Clayface returns to the city. Soon enough, Clayface starts dressing as Batman and recruits an acrobat with a history of crime to be his sidekick as Robin. They soon start posing as a dynamic duo to get close to the Arab oil minister, Basil Oram, which was a part of his larger plan with Catwoman to abduct the oil minister and steal his oil. The series gave us a whole lot of adventure and fun, which culminated in a thoroughly entertaining finale as more and more villains teamed up to cause unimaginable levels of chaos. In fact, the 13th episode of the show, Birds of a Feather Fool Around Together, followed a criminal election against the Joker. Hoping to defeat him, the Penguin ends up inventing a strange device known as the Crime Slime that could transform regular human beings into criminals. He further switches bodies with Batmite and stirs up trouble for Batman and his allies, who eventually de-escalate the situation. However, they realize their troubles are far from over as they face Zarbor, a wanted criminal from Batmite's home dimension. In a two-part episode titled Have an Evil Day, this episode introduced us to Batmite's home world of Ergo, as well as a notorious villain known as Zarbor, who travels all the way from Ergo to Earth. While he poses a huge threat to humanity on his own, Zarbor decides that he needs a team of supervillains by his side, and he soon recruits some of Batman's most lethal enemies to keep the superhero distracted. He manages to convince the Joker, Clayface, the Penguin, and Catwoman to launch schemes against the dynamic duo, and Batman has a hard time dodging their attacks, while Zarbor directs his attention to America's nuclear plants. As it turns out, the villain had his eyes set on Earth's resources the whole time, and the episode ends with Zarbor successfully stealing these nuclear power plants and fleeing back to Ergo. While Batmite tries his best to stand up to Zarbor, his knowledge also falls short in capturing Ergo, and things get tense in the next episode as they have no option but to travel to Zarbor and face him in his home territory. Batman and Robin track Zarbor to his home planet, and they're also accompanied by Batmite and a team of villains who decided to help Zarbor in the first place. While they managed to beat him and secure the stolen power plants, the series finale marks Zarbor's return as he refuses to accept defeat so easily. The finale was titled This Looks Like a Job for Batmite, and it followed Zarbor as he found a way to break out of prison on Ergo and return to Earth. He seemed determined to go through with his plans to establish himself as Earth's ruler, and he even managed to brainwash Batman and Robin into enabling his plan. Finally, Batmite makes himself useful and establishes that he makes a good condition to the team by working with Batgirl to defeat Zarbor and restore the dynamic duo. The finale also serves as a fitting redemption arc for Batmite, who had unintentionally stirred up trouble for Batman throughout the series, only to save the day at last. Timeless charm of the New Adventures of Batman, the animated TV series. The New Adventures of Batman remains one of the most well-loved pieces of media that explores the Caped Crusader's mission to get rid of any evil in society. The show was thoroughly entertaining, and Adam West's voice acting as Batman truly adds a touch of familiarity to an already iconic superhero. Burt Ward voices Robin, and both these characters make for an excellent team that manages to deal with any and all kinds of threats. In addition to this, the show also does a wonderful job of gathering some exciting characters from Batman's rogue gallery, including some lesser explored entities such as Mr. Freeze and the Chameleon. However, Batmite remains to be one of the most entertaining additions, and he sets the scene for a whole lot of gags throughout the series. The show was also shot in a way that made it feel like it was right out of a Batman comic book, but with many action-packed, fast-paced fight sequences. The show had a full-body rotoscoping animation style along with some well-timed around effects that came together to form a neat package of a show.
Sorry I'm late.
Marvelous verdict. And on that note, we've come to the end of this video. The New Adventures of Batman was truly a wild ride in the form of an animated series, and it incorporated a plethora of iconic Batman villains. Additionally, the show had a stellar cast of voice actors and creative plot lines, and the show certainly deserved a lot more than a 16-episode run. However, this makes it quite a binge-worthy watch, and we would love to hear your thoughts on it in the comments down below. As always, if you like the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.